Live.
Hello.
Hello.
How's it going, dude?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
Good. Let's start this off with positive energy. You ready for this?
Okay.
Welcome to Tentacle Croissant. I am your co-host, Pierre XO, and this is my lovely brethren.
I am Richard Grannon. Hello, I'm Richard Grannon.
What's going on,
What's
dude?
What's that voice tone called? It's called a glottal
Vocal fry.
vocal fry.
A glottal? You said a glottal? What's a glottal,
There's a
dude?
glottal epiglottis in this
Oh,
somewhere or
that's a
another.
glottal.
Glottal strain vocal fry. So I was trying to listen to an Aleister Crowley video. There's not much on YouTube the other day, and there's these two Americans, a boy and a girl, and the girl was just leaning in so preposterously to this thing.
Yeah.
She just couldn't even. And I was like, you sound about 18. And she was trying to sound like she'd been, through 3 divorces, various oxytocin and heroin at the same, and she's like, I'm really trying to sound world weary here. I was like, you can stop that because
I'm
it's
trying
ridiculous.
to think. The placement of vocal fry is in a very, let's just say, like a quantum field of two things at once, because vocal fry is immediately associated with dumb Valley girl from California.
Right.
But then you have this evolution that isn't fully evolved yet into super liberal professor that knows a lot.
Yeah. How?
You know what I mean? Like how it's both at the same time.
Who did this? Who made it so that made you sound like cosmopolitan and worldly?
It's the same voice as in, hey, do you want to go to yoga? Or if you look at the appropriation of green screens back in 1979, it's the
postmodern perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
If you just check your privilege.
It's the same thing. It's like
it's so irritating. I couldn't listen. And it was really, it was like I wanted to listen because it was two young hip American kids talking about this weird old English occultist and his life in Cyprus and in Greece. And I'm like, this is great. This is a fantastic podcast. Nobody else has covered it as far as I know. I couldn't bear it. I could not stand her interjection. So it'd be like if I tried to do a Leonard Cohen impression, it would just get very, very old very quickly.
It's something out of the many things that I resent about me. One of it is the upspeak. I'll sometimes, when I'm making a point, I'll do the little Californian upspeak thing at the end, and I hate it. And when I hear myself do it, like on playbacks and stuff, I just it ruins the credibility of anything that you'll ever say that has any sort of
you
substance.
Cannot make any sincere point by making a statement sound like a question mark. It's impossible.
Even if you have some substance behind the upspeak, it is all discredited. You just sound like a fucking snake oil new age crystal salesman,
I don't even know what that is either. Like, why pronounce a statement as a question? I don't know what. I just want to suggest to you that the truth is like this.
You know what it is? It's the pseudo postmodern question everything and nothing is exactly the way that it is.
That's horrifying. That's horrifying.
Yeah, man. So
I just drank a pint and a half of bull's hot sperm.
Yeah, you downed that, and I believe
I've still got some of it in my beard, ladies and gents, to enjoy for later.
heavily prepared today. I was at the tattoo place today, and I texted Richard, "Hey, 8 o'clock today, is it okay?" And he goes, "Okay." Sets the thing for 7. I'm like, "Fuck!" Luckily, I got out early though.
I don't listen to anyone. I'm in my own little world. And yes, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. And, you guys join in. I don't mind.
Dude, I was...
Sorry about that. It very clearly says in our chat, 8 o'clock.
Yeah, I set up the camera. Yes. I was like, oh shit, 5 minutes left. I set up the camera and I saw the makeup just smeared all over my face because I had to lean on my face to get this fucking part done. It's like a geometrical thing behind this is like the most painful spot ever. Yes, so I'm like, as I'm sobbing into the leather headrest, you can see the makeup run. So I turn on the camera and I'm like, I look strung out. I'm gonna go fix that. That's why we're a bit late.
Did you get any video of your face smeared with makeup, tearful, crushed into the leather? Because somebody somewhere would love to watch that.
I know you. I was gonna send
somebody somewhere has been looking for that footage since like forever.
But it would have been a perfect TikTok, but I was just so out of it that if I like fucking TikToked myself in withering in pain as my arm's getting stabbed, it would have been just like fucking viral if I had the right caption, you know, and needed some irony behind it.
I have nothing to add here that is even vaguely gonna fly, so I'm just gonna shut the fuck up. This is me. So, Pierre,
all right. So, what are we talking about here? What were we just talking about? Oh, vocal fry and how it ruins any credibility. I guess that transitions into wokeism, and we can bring in street fight somewhere in between.
Oh yes, well, we love it. I actually raised I just shoehorned it into a talk I gave the other day on my main channel on the inner critic and mental health issues. And I shoehorned in some martial arts, and people loved it. They really, really liked it. And they said, oh, it lends like a bit of depth, another dimension to it.
I have been telling you before, man, like this stuff is super interesting, and it's a shame that you don't talk about it as much because it's really fascinating, especially hearing from somebody that's not just like trying to sell us a 1-inch punch that will defeat all of your enemies. You know, you've actually been on the ground, but so much of it is associated with real life. You know, one thing that you actually said on a stream, I don't know where I found it. It was recently though, but it echoed a point that I was just saying to my friend right before I saw the stream too. And you know, she approaches things that are definitely a bit more new agey, woo-woo ish, right? And you know, meditate it out and just believe that you're one with everything, and I'm always trying to get my point across that hey, the pragmatic way isn't always like that sort of a thing.
Yeah.
And then it finally clicked. I was like, as I'm boxing in VR so much, this is a perfect metaphor. So you have Tai Chi as considered a martial art, right? Yeah. It is.
It is, absolutely, yeah.
Tai Chi can be considered is a martial art and can be considered for self-defense. And it's this kind of slowish movement type of thing. And there are real benefits to Tai Chi that will definitely heal a lot of parts of your life. And you can have a ton of only positive benefits doing it and everything like that. Except when a motherfucker runs up on you, you know, throws a left hook and you don't even know what the hell to do with this. And what are you gonna Tai Chi your way out of there? And boxing is or let's just say boxing could be considered one of the pragmatic approaches to life that is necessary. Tai Chi is good for some things, but you can't apply that in combat with life. And boxing is more practical in terms of that.
Well, the thing with Tai Chi is you can actually overlap boxing and Tai Chi. And I did when I used to teach, and people really enjoyed it. So Tai Chi, as most people think of it, like old people in tracksuits in the park in their latter years, in their winter years, getting a bit of a stretch. There is that side of it, but that's just the drill. That's just so you can actually box a straight boxing drill and get benefit from it. Boxing in slow motion. So we could do like a 5-sequence punch with then head movement, and I would be saying to you, just slow, because it awakens a level of consciousness to the movement. That's the point of the Tai Chi drill. It's called the Grand Ultimate Fist. It's supposed to take 3 lifetimes. You're supposed to have so intense you remanifest just so you can continue your training. And it's to awaken a level of consciousness, and it's to wake your body up. It's like the Buddhist answer to martial arts. And actually the techniques themselves, I can show you some of the stuff. It's 100% combative. Just the drill is slow. The drill is really, really slow. But it's a beautiful style, and I always used to say to people about Tai Chi, like when I did door work and I would fight, well, not fight, you're not supposed to fight, but like restrain and move people, which was fighting. It was Tai Chi. Everything was Tai Chi. All the moves. If I want to move you and not hurt you and not get in trouble with the police, it's Tai Chi. So that they have like these, and there's no other style that does it where you can hold tricep, shoulder, neck,
Right, right.
move people and fling them. You can fling a motherfucker with Tai Chi.
Yeah.
Ooh, you can fling a motherfucker with Tai Chi. With no other style teaches that. It's beautiful. But yeah, no, it's
Sure.
is a thing.
I guess what I'm trying to approach is that with any martial art, Tai Chi is just an easier picture to paint with. Like
Yeah.
people take fucking karate and do the fucking flamingo or the crane or some shit, you know? So
Yeah.
there's a bunch of like approaches to martial arts that are just heavily impractical in a
Yeah.
real life situation. But there is still a benefit of practicing the martial art in that manner. And
Yes.
with life itself, you know, there are times where you might have this woo-woo theory of like, I'm gonna take his arm and hip toss him and then throw him into an arm bar and everything
Yes.
will be okay. Or I'm gonna slip and then boom, you know, but real life is messy. And
I
those
know what you were talking about. You were talking about relying on techniques and ideology versus relying on yourself. That was
yeah,
the thing I was
you
talking
and
about.
you yeah, you recently just spoke about that. And I recently came to the same conclusion to try to paint the picture
Yeah.
of differences between theory
Yeah.
and pragmatism or
Application.
application. Yeah,
Yeah.
there it is.
There's some fancy word for it in philosophy. I think it's praxis, Praxis, but somebody will say it in the comments, I'm sure, if that's wrong. So yeah, there is that I know what you're alluding to, sort of like there's the idea, there's the meditation, there's the woo, there's the philosophy, and then there's the get your ass out of bed in the morning and put your socks on and do something useful with your fucking day. Well, and I've always been like that. I've been ruthless with myself. Like even as a teenager, if I was doing stuff, I'd be like, "Where's your philosophy now, fuckface? Where's your
Yeah,
philosophy
yeah,
now?"
right,
Like you
right.
don't. So last night, you know, you're in a good mood, you're calm, and I would be walking around with a little book of like quotes from Buddhism and Zen meditation, and I'd be really pissed off at some of the point. I'd be like, "Well, where is it now?" Because if it's real, it should be in your bones. There's a book
Yeah,
called Zen Flesh, Zen Bones. It should be. It shouldn't be knocked out of you. If it can be knocked out of your hands, it's a thing you're holding. You can't
yeah,
knock your bones out of somebody. Like that's them. So if it's not really integrated, it's just a kind of a performative fetish virtue signaling thing. And I think that's the split that we see in so many areas today, right?
yeah, yeah. I think where I think recent not it's not even recent. It's like, whoa, time fucking flies. For the last 10 years of my life,
Mm-hmm.
it's been the universe boxing me into the ring, like forcibly boxing me. Where before that, maybe even until I was like 21 ish, it was all woo, it was all theory. You know, it was all like this Tai Chi practice in my head.
Yeah.
And then, as of the last 8 years, it's true boxing. And then now I'm
Yeah.
at this point where it's like, fuck, I got to hang up the gloves because you know, I mean, how long can you box for before you
Well,
gas?
there's one thing you said there that is a sign of psychological aging, which is tremendous fun, which is you think that things are recent that are actually from 10 years ago. You can
Yeah,
only have that thought when you're
fuck,
past the age
man.
of 29.
Fuck, man.
You can only like because when you're 18, you're not going, I remember when I had a philosophy when I was 8. No, you didn't.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
when you're 29, 28, you did have a philosophy when you were 18. So you can
Cool.
speak in terms of 10 years like that. The second sign of aging is you look across the ring at those salty old dudes and you'd
Yeah,
be like, "Oh, I feel what they feel. I feel
yeah,
that. And you can
yeah.
I see that in you, like you're starting to feel
No,
that.
no, dude, I wanted to bring this up to you too. I was like, oh shit, this is what those fucking salty ass dudes, old ass dudes, like fucking talking me down, like
Yeah.
back in the day when I got good at
Yeah.
something. You know, it's like, oh shit. And when we look at TikTok or whatever the hell, you know,
Yeah.
yeah, man, it's there.
You feel it. You feel it. Yeah. These are, and there's some of the these to me are like the positive sides of aging is that you can age with an awareness that that's happening and look and go, okay, well, there's all kind like what was important to you when you're younger is not ceases to be important when you're older. And there's a back to martial arts. There's actually a teacher called Dr. Masaki Hatsumi who runs the Togakure Ninjutsu school, and he famously wrote, "In life, the things that you think you do not need, over time, you come to realize you do need them." And there's me and a mate of mine called Reg from Hong Kong. He's like my brother in martial arts for years now. Like we go over a decade. We kick that quote back to each other at least twice a year. You know, one of these things where you're like, because say just in martial arts, not psychology, culture, or anything else. When you're a kid, you look at stuff and you go, I don't need that. I don't need that. Why are we doing that? Why are we doing that? And then over time, you're like, shit, I do need that. I do need to bow when I enter the dojo. I actually need to bow and I need to say something in a foreign language. Because when we started out, we were super postmodern. We were like, that's goofy as fuck. What am I speaking Japanese or Thai for?
Yeah.
Well, when you speak when a modern Jew speaks ancient Hebrew or a modern Christian speaks ancient Latin, or that you're sort of saying to yourself, this is not my normal mode. This is special now.
Yeah, it does a few things. You're switching complete modes. You're humbling yourself because you're giving the power to something completely out of your own sphere. And a few other things beneath that for sure, I think.
Yeah, you sort of tell yourself and tell others. There's the adherence to tradition, and there's the adherence to, as you rightly say, just some big other, something else, and it's semi-religious, and it doesn't do anybody any harm. And then you call your teacher by a special name. You know he's called fucking Frank, and he lives down in Birkenhead, but in the dojo he's Sensei. Oh, what the fuck? But then as you age, you're like, oh shit, no, the things you think you don't need, some of these things you need. And I would include in that, as we discussed it before, tattoos. Like you don't need, in a framework of a purely practical life, you don't need them. But from another framework, actually you do. Actually you do, because for multiple reasons. I mean, you could digress off into that ad nauseum, but some of the things that you don't think you need, you do actually need. And I think that's the nature of being human. Not everything we do can be reduced to raw practicality.
Right.
And nor should it be. Some of the things we do are superstitious, religious, spiritual, and they remind us of who we are. You know, I'll walk around with a bracelet on that Reg got me in Japan. He went to a special shrine. He's Chinese, but he's super big on Japanese culture. And he went to a special shrine of like a Ronin, a masterless samurai who worship this unusual. And he went and prayed for me and got a special bracelet from that shrine. And I'm like, well, do I need to wear this? Do I need to carry it around with me wherever I go? No, but also, well, I didn't die yet, so maybe yes.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think a place that doesn't really have much of it was my home country, and it beat the fuck out of my Tai Chi. You know, like it American boxing, like straight up just pushed that out of my inner everything. So it was I convinced myself the only way to get anywhere in life and possibly to be respected or have some sort of inherent value was to view it pragmatically only. And completely omitted where I feel almost like I still kind of feel resentful, not as much, but still resentful of the yin and like the woo woo approach to things, because I felt like it did me wrong, you know.
There's a new world pragmatism, so you'll get the same vibe in America. You'll feel it in America, in Australia and New Zealand as well.
Yeah.
Which is like life was pretty Spartan and tough for the people who started there, and so you only carried what you could immediately use. Like if it didn't save your life this afternoon, you're not carrying it because it's too fucking heavy. And which is great, it's fine, but it's a trauma-based. Like if you equate it to psychology, when people grow in that environment and they're on survival mode for long enough, you can develop like a very cold, psychopathic, pragmatic worldview. Right. And you lose culture, you lose
well, the meaning of everything.
Right.
I mean, it's a huge important part, you know. And I think I thought about this the other actually today as I'm walking to my Uber. I thought about this very topic, but I only use America for my own subjective experience. It just makes it a bit more grounded. But like this, every place has a cultural matrix, like a bubble of how they view reality. And America has this one that's so heavily pragmatic that and it has this weird bubble of customer service doing absolutely everything for you. So it's switching this strange feedback loop that only exists in that area that you wouldn't find anywhere else. You know, and I don't know where I was going with that, but you know,
no, it's interesting because it creates. I think it's possible to underestimate the effect that has, because if that country that you're referring to was just a little country like Liechtenstein or Belgium or New Zealand, so what? But it's so big, and it's pumped out so much addictive memes into the world that it's taken over the world. So we all live in America, like Rammstein said. Right. So now we're all living in America, which means we all live in customer service, do everything for you. And the danger with this kind of ideology is what you can't see. It is automatically assumed that you're a consumer, and that's all.
Right.
And you might think, well, that's nice. I want to be pleasured. Put warm ice cream that's melted into my mouth. Rub my genitals for me pleasantly. You just think, I want that. Yeah, okay. A part of you does, but it's actually very reductive. It's quite humiliating to be treated that way. There's and it's very hard for us to verbally quite put your finger on exactly what it is. It's just something about who you are has been taken away with a smile and with a blowjob and some melted ice cream.
Dude, I'll quickly play a TikTok here, but to go off of what you're saying, everything being super consumerist, it's not even consumerism now. It's what do you say? Manufacturerist,
mercantilism, something like that.
It's no longer consuming. It's now everyone is producing.
Yes.
But like hyper production, because everyone's an influencer now, and we're all forced to think that we all should be creating content and monetizing any type of work that we do in our spare time. So let me play this thing real here. I posted it today. It's actually quite interesting.
Sometimes I draw like this. Other times,
turn down the brightness.
Other times I draw like this. Most of the time, I don't draw at all. I can't even get myself to do this shit for fun anymore, nonetheless, but the amount of work and hours into it that would be necessary to turn it into any sort of ongoing, sustainable source of income. But if not this, then what, right? Because it's literally written into my persona. It's all that I've wanted since I was a kid. The career path that I've been set on since I was like 7. I'm about $300,000 worth of student loan debt into it. And here I am questioning if I even actually like doing it, or if I'm just addicted to people like you telling me that you like that I do it. And the worst part is that I can't tell if this is just my depression sucking the absolute joy out of literally every aspect of my life, or if I truly just have a deeply rooted lifelong misunderstanding of who I even am. Oh, by the way, I designed really cool sweaters and merch and stuff on this. If you want to check out the links in the bio, I got stickers, prints, merch, all sorts of fun stuff because, I'm an artist.
That's TikTok, guys. It's not just teenagers dancing, man.
That's probably a little too much truth for me to deal with inside of 60 seconds, to be honest.
Dude, when I was like, dude, I just got hit in the fucking head. But
that's a lot. That's a hell of a lot. Wow.
But
it's a point.
Not wrong.
It's not wrong. It's not wrong. Somebody in the comments said, "Oh, I can't deal with people hating on America." We're not hating on America, man. Not hating on America at all. But you've got to be able to say, like, if you're coaching somebody on an individual level and you see that there's a problem that's hurting them, you need to be able to say that. And this kind of mercantilism, where everything becomes the marketplace and we're all merchants of things, including ourselves,
but
is really dangerous.
We're not selling anything anymore. We're selling us, where we become the commodity. This is why I'm thinking it needs to be a step above just hyper consumerism. It's another thing, because consumerism before was like the top 5 Walmart type companies just let us sit on frozen dinner with the TV. Yes. But now it's that even each viewer has become a manufacturer or a curator of something. And that's the only way to make it now, or whatever. And then you take your hobbies or yourself, and then you commodify yourself without even knowing that you are.
So you get to consumerism on steroids was one level, intense corporatism, monopolies, and then consumerism on acid. It spills back onto you. and
Yes.
you're the consumer consumed, and the snake is eating its own tail,
Right.
echoing across the ceiling as you sweat on the floor in gibber.
Because if you think about it, like, who is doing the consuming really, and who is really doing the creating now?
That precise question, on a really bad trip when I was 18 at Aston University, after I drank a bottle of red wine and smoked skunk, and I hate weed, and then I decided in my drunken bravadoed state to take acid. That question obsessed me for 8 hours. Who is consuming? Who is watching? Who is consuming? Who is watching? And I was like crawling up the bathroom wall going, I don't know. I don't know. And God, who was also Satan in that moment, who's the same, was torturing me, who wouldn't leave me alone. It was like, but who is watching you? And it was this, there was this circuit in my head that got burned that night of doing things because people are watching you. Because at 6 o'clock in the morning, hungover, coming down, I was like, nobody. The fantasy of the people is that the fantasy of being viewed is always got. I have to cite Zizek. I'm sorry. It always has an added element to it. So this is a tricky point. Zizek said, when two people have sex, there's never just naively two people having sex. There's always a third element, a fantasy, an observer, or something else, in order for the sex to be successful, to be successfully completed, presumably with both orgasming. So in the same way, there's never just you and the audience. There's always a third element. And that's where the real problem is. That's where the problem, our fantasy of the third element is the real tricky thing. Because when I came off that bad trip, I was like, oh, okay. Nobody's consciousness is superior to mine. So I was like, so if you became like a really famous person with millions of people watching you, who's watching you? And I was like, just a bunch of fucking idiots in their socks, just like you. And it was heart crushing. It was heartbreaking, but freeing at the same time, if that gibberish made sense.
Well, why was it heartbreaking exactly? Because they're just people.
Because for me, it was the death. I wanted to be an actor when I was a kid.
Yeah,
that was my thing. I wanted to write, direct, and act. And there's no, to quote my friend Jack Donovan, there's no there. There's no utopia. The third element, I suppose, would be the fantasy or the utopia. There's no utopia. So have 30 million look at you, have 300 million, have 3 billion. Nothing changes. You're still locked in this reality. You don't transcend this reality. What I'm also alluding to here is the will to transcend. I believe that the highest will that people have is to transcend this reality, and we basically we can't. But once we've realized the limitations of that, that's where life gets a little easier.
I kind of get where you're coming from here, because I definitely was along the same lines. Want to be actor, entertainer, whatever the fuck. Insert LA, every Instagram bio plus pronouns here, Yeah. So the idea of searching for extreme fame was one of my goals too. And you're right. It's not that you purposely just want a lot of people to see you. It's this grandiose, ambiguous glob that has fame and neon lights. It's not a one particular thing. It's not even the lifestyle. There's like this weird, fantastical fantasy, unexplainable thing that you're trying to attain that doesn't even exist. Because technically, what fame is just people know you, but you're still in your own world.
Yeah, which is why most celebrities complain like hell about it and say there's nothing good here. It's why pictures of Ben Affleck keep coming out where he looks really depressed and alcoholic. And you think, well, fuck you, Ben Affleck. You're rich and famous. And it's like, if could you imagine having CPTSD or having depression and anxiety, and then on top of that, just everybody's looking at you all the time?
Yeah.
Fucking nightmare.
Yeah. I mean that ultimately is the unbenefit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's why Tupac kind of leaned towards fuck the fame, I want the money, I'm a simple man,
That makes sense. I realized I was a little ambiguous there. Somebody said, Christina says, because those idiots, we are just like you. Yes, I didn't make that very clear. when I realized that I'm the observer, we're the observer, and there isn't, I suppose if we wanted to the Freudian analysis, there's the infantile hope that there's a mummy or daddy, which would mean God or goddess, would see us, but there's no God or goddess here. There's just us.
That's
That makes more sense.
Say that again, because that's exactly what linked it together. It makes sense now that you say that.
Okay, so the infantile, the Freudian analysis would be that the hope, the infantile hope, utopian hope, is that I would be seen by my parents, but as an adult, I want to be seen by a god or goddess, but there's no god or goddess there. There's
Right.
just other people like me. So there's no heaven. There's something intrinsically religious to this, that we don't escape this world and go to heaven. We just kind of rock around here like a bunch of worms rolling over each other.
Like, who are you really trying to prove? You know, like, are you really trying to prove yourself to the audience? No. Are you trying to prove it to yourself? Sort of.
Yeah.
You're trying to prove it to something else right in between the two. Yes. And you can't put words into what that exactly is, because it's like, I look back on other situations and I'm like, am I really trying to impress or prove some strangers on the internet here? Maybe a little bit. Am I really trying to prove it to myself? I mean, a part of it.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it feels like a metaphysical sacrifice, like, you know, on a pyramid to what? And why is that an unconscious action, you know?
We're trying to get attention from the gods. And I'm very jealous. Like, when I was a young actor, I knew perfectly what, like, our version of what acting is comes from the Greeks. And I was jealous that they literally believed that the gods were watching them. Could you imagine the euphoria you would feel if a crowd applauded you and you thought that the gods also were applauding you? That if you pleased the people, that meant the gods were also pleased? The narcissistic elation of that. It's like, but we don't get that in a postmodern world. We're not allowed that. It's the same with warrior cultures. They typically would have gods that they would perform their acts for. And if you can fake your way into this mindset, you'll find power. Like, you get much stronger and much braver if you think you're doing it for Thor, or you think Saturn is gonna see it, and it's like I'm not saying any of these things literally happen. It's a software click. Like I mentioned before, quite unconsciously, my friend went to a Japanese warrior god and prayed to him. That means something to me. Now, put a gun to my head and say you literally believe that that's true, and I'd be like, I can't. I wish I could. That's like, I just can't, but I really want to. That part of me is not potent. It's like an impotent winky. It won't erect. I wish it would. I really wish it would, because I know life would be easier. But this is the horror of the postmodern landscape, which is what Nietzsche warned us of when he said God is dead. It's horrifying.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, because I'm just going to try to shove this topic in there, because this is something that I've been reflecting on a lot recently. Yeah. And because of this pragmatism and having these discussions versus woo-wooism, or what do you even call that? The new age shit or whatever, integrated with some vague Eastern values of just Zen and just everything should be.
You can call it the psyop that it is, but yeah, sorry, go on.
Yes, yeah, that too. And I am trying to reconciliate, fancy word there, the idea of human action without without goals, or intention, and whatever else. Because, for example, if you act or you do art and music, your goal is unconsciously appeasing father, daddy, mother, God somewhere off in the distance, right? Is it truly possible to have human action to just exist, you know, like without any agenda? Because the idea of you should just take it in. Sure, that can happen at a micro level of like, you know, just enjoying things. But I mean, even enjoying something is also a goal. Your goal is to enjoy the situation there.
Yeah. So are you asking, like, can anything ever be done without the ideological framework?
Sure. Like, because when I hear the approach with the woo-woo side of constantly just be and just accept that you're all one and then float away, there's still a goal. There's still something underneath that you're trying to attain, you know?
Yes, I'm not. I suspect a certain portion of that population of people have achieved that momentarily. The problem is that the majority of people who espouse that philosophy haven't, and they're hoping that if they tell enough people who are non-believers like yourself, that magically it will happen for them without them doing the work.
So it's the ultimate goal.
Right.
It's the ultimate agenda.
Yes.
Underneath that whole thing, it's the unconscious ocean in action, moving them towards the goal that they need to convince everyone plus themselves that something will just happen.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So it's like evangelizing people in all really. Like if I evangelize enough people, I spread the word of God, God will surely see me, and he'll have a special hotel room for me and my family in heaven when we're all dead.
It's funny how that is inherent in the religious ideological structure. The fact that you have to share it and unconsciously, passive aggressively convince people that that's the answer. You know, how often it's not very hard, but let's just say it's not uncommon to see religious people consistently pushing beliefs or people that behave religiously.
Well, this is where I go off the Richter scale for weirdness for most people. Is I personally see this as an indication that we are a slave species, and that we're entrained to be slaves, and we're constantly looking for gods. And I'm like, why? What in our evolution? What about evolving uninterrupted on the savannas of Africa with no interference would make us obsessed with the approval of bigger beings? There's nothing like if you're in the Garden of Eden, the Africa, where you just kill what's there and eat the plants and you fuck each other and you're happy. Why all this like rape and genocide and horror and torture in the name of God and Goddess? You wouldn't need it. So I see this as an indication that we're aliens.
That's fascinating. I never thought about that. It's well, why is every single human action aimed to appease an authority figure? Or
we're genetically programmed as people pleasers, and the people amongst us who are narcissists and psychopaths, they have a little squiggle in the code that gets awakened through trauma, where they become slave masters, and they develop the slave master mentality. But they're not really slave masters. They would be like
they're enslaved by their own drive to constantly fuck shit up.
Yes, of course. So it's this is why it's considered, if you listen to Sam Vaknin, that the key cornerstone of narcissism is the fantasy. It's a fantasy. I'm living. Oh well, we don't say fantasy. I think in psychology you're supposed to say the false self, self. But it basically means you're a fucking fantasist. You fantasize you're a master, not a slave. And that's I know it puts people off. You mention aliens and people just fucking hate it, but I've been thinking about this for years, and I don't have another. Dude. If you look at the pattern of behavior and the course of our development, we act like enslaved creatures who were just left on a plantation and the slave masters went away. We saw every nation, every culture, every ethnicity has terrible, terrible abandonment anxiety, a fixation on appeasing through sadism and masochism, gods and goddesses, and look at how we treat each other. We love enslaving each other. It's called a repetition compulsion. It's a traumatic repetition compulsion.
By the way, dude, everyone loves aliens on Tentacle Croissant, by the way. So
I'm sure our followers, people here will be like, I thought you guys were aliens. Like that's the brand. You're not talking about I'm not talking about you guys, but in the broader community, if you really want to if you want to discredit yourself, say aliens, or say the Pentagon just developed a microchip that can tell when the Rona is in your blood and switch it off.
Interesting, fun.
Which it just did. I don't know if you heard that.
No, I didn't. I was too busy reading about a certain one creating fucking blood clots, and they had.
That's my one from my country.
Yeah. So
university I wanted to go to, Oxford, and I think America has stopped using it now.
Yeah. It's like it's as if like these things aren't fully safe.
It's as if there's nothing to worry about. Get onto the vehicle.
I have to pee really bad. I'm sorry. I should have went before.
Okay. Anybody want to ask me any questions? As long as it's about aliens and the traumatic enslavement of our DNA, I'll answer it. It's the ancient astronaut theory, the Anunnaki. Look at our stories. Look at the Book of Enoch. The sons of men, the Watchers, they came down to Earth and mated with human females and taught humanity all kinds of trickery and magic and evil. Okay. Isabel asks, Richard, it would be interesting to get your take on learning how to box and fight and calming the nervous system anxiety. Have you noticed that in your students? I have in myself. I think there's a lot of things that happen that are positive when you take up like martial arts. It's quite rigorous. Boxing, kickboxing is very, very rigorous activity. So you're a lot of endorphins. Your hormonal panel will change within a couple of weeks. There's an awful lot of agency, an awful lot of resilience, courage that you need, and it takes you out of your head. So I'm not going to be the guy that says, hey, boxing cures depression, but boxing cures depression. No, I don't mean it's that simple. But yes, I will speak about that more on my channel.
Yes. Yeah. So daddy issues and humanity. Yeah. It's very strange that, I mean, if you look at animals and just how things are on Earth, things just kind of work with and sometimes against, but it's never consistently trying to appease a bigger thing. I mean, in the animal kingdom at a smaller level, but it's like, okay, we're on top of the food chain. Now what? Oh, we have to like fucking flatulate. We have to flatulate ourselves.
Yeah.
Flatulate.
Flatulate and flagellate.
Yes.
Whip.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And speaking of which, I was another topic too, because I'm doing a lot of reflecting in general, is like the idea of opposition, friction, and conflict. And this could easily tie into like street fighting and stuff in this manner. But I'm thinking like, as I'm trying to work out the idea of new age Zen, of things just be and let things go and things are the way that they are, I'm like, well, I feel like a lot of things have to have a goal in mind as well as some sort of hidden confrontation or conflict or friction somewhere. I mean, why is everybody so fucking worked up now out of all times? And people that are trying to spew this new utopian ideology, they have the most friction in their everything. And I'm thinking like, is there a moment, or is it even possible for humans to be without friction? It's just part of our DNA, or what?
It's one of those things where you just observe that which is there, and that which is there, so somebody just asked in the comments, where have the alien gods gone? Well, that would make me, so here's the thing between that we haven't ever distinguished, and we must distinguish. There are conspiracy theorists, and then there are official story deniers. So you can say this story makes no sense, and I don't believe the official narrative. There's something else here. The conspiracy theorist jumps to, therefore it's this. And then they have to theorize what is there. And I usually say, I don't know, because, I mean, name a conspiracy theory. None of the evidence is massively compelling in any direction. But I can say with certainty, with many conspiracy theories, like the official narrative is dross. It's total junk. So I look at, if you're in a court of law, they have something that they look at called a guilty demeanor. So if you look at the behavior of a group of people or a species in context, you say, what's the pattern here? What does this look like? Does this look like somebody who's being extorted? Is this guy running his business as though the mafia is leaning on him? Even though he says he's not, maybe he was, because look at the way the money is moving. Look at his operations, whatever it is, right? In the same way, yeah, I agree with you 100%. Why are we so prone to conflict? And how do we use that? The thing with meditation in particular, it's such a hard sell for our modern minds, because it's anti-everything. It's anti-everything. It's anti-ideology. What do I get from it? Nothing. What's the purpose? Nothing. Why should I do it? You don't have to do it. It's the weirdest thing in the modern world. The true rebellion is to sit, do nothing, and feel okay. Not even enjoy it. Don't even enjoy it. The true rebellion would be, so people say, are you happy right now? You go, no, I'm not even happy. I'm just sitting here. That's rebellion.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And I think that's my friction or conflict with this idea, is that being in the postmodern world, I mean, how do you function without these principles of, I mean, God knows what the damn rules are, but I mean, how do you, in a postmodern, hyper-capitalistic, consumerist, productionist society, to sit and do nothing with
Yeah.
TikTok right there, you know, and all of these other, the internet? I mean,
Yes.
damn. Well, what would have, like, the Zen Buddhists, when it was first created, do if they realized an iPhone popped up right next to them? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think it's a good question. I'd love to know what people of days gone by would have made of it. For sure, they would have seen it as magic. I don't think that they would have found it. Depends on what time we're talking about, but I have a strong suspicion that many people in days gone by wouldn't have found it as compelling as we do. I think that where we find it compelling because we've lost so much. We've lost so much, and we've even
Yeah.
lost each other. So we were
Yeah.
miserable to begin with. I mean, really, dude. I mean, I was thinking about this when I was walking through town yesterday, and I was thinking about TikTok, and all the social media platforms. Honestly, it's fucking boring. It's fucking stupid and fucking boring. But we tell ourselves it isn't, to drown out the silence in our lives because it's so horrifying. And so we imbue value. It's like being in a bad relationship. If you're desperate for that relationship, you imbue it with a value it doesn't even have.
I don't think boring is the right word. It's unfulfilling. Because
Yeah.
it's really entertaining, but it's not like, it's like fast food popcorn entertaining.
So
You know?
you have to be your central nervous system, your digestive system has to be readapted to experience fast food as
Yes.
good.
Right.
And I
Right.
think that's where we're at. We're adapted to thinking that this stuff is good. It's certainly better than Instagram. It's damn sure better than Facebook. But there's still something very, very redundant about all of it.
I know exactly the point you're trying to make. I was just being nitpicky. But the exact point that you're making, I believe, is that there's so much that we've lost inherently that we have usually found value in.
Yeah.
Whether that, I mean, obviously, human, warm, empathetic, compassionate connection with one another, religion, whatever that fulfilled that deep void. But we obviously are outsourcing all these things to little, sugar candy coated popcorns on TikTok, because we've lost so much for that to become the new form of our mental diet.
Yeah, I think living in a love deficit environment accounts for a hell of a lot of this. We're just, as creatures, as entities. I mean, my whole thing, like, if I ran a cult, the whole thing would be like, drop everything, embrace existentialism, embrace nihilism, and then lose pretty much everything. What do you have left? We have the time we have on this planet, we have each other, and we have this world, and that's it. Can you accept that? And is it enough? And then for me, I've just been like, yeah, that's enough. That's it. It's easily enough.
Yeah.
I can't do it on my own, though. Like, I need other people to be on board with me. Otherwise, I'm like, oh yeah, I have other people, except I fucking don't. Just doing it on my own. But if the whole of culture went in that direction, we would have a lot less problems.
Well, you just started a cult there. I mean,
right there it is.
People would join immediately. But yeah, I think I rewatched last night Good Will Hunting, and it definitely hits a lot different when you're fucking 28 now.
Right.
I watched for the first time before I couldn't even understand a damn word.
Did you cry?
Internally, yeah, like I didn't fully bawl, but it definitely hit a different spot. And I think that movie definitely illustrates what we're talking about in terms of what that void is and what the distractions could be, and the understanding of deep intrinsic experience as opposed to reading about a painting or technique too. That movie really does illustrate these principles in a heavy Boston accent.
The dog farted in November.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Man.
I really like that film. I like it a lot, but it's as you say, like over time it'll hit differently. But that's one of the films that I found, in a sense, left me with a sense of optimism, because it is about breaking out of ideological structures as well. We
Yes.
find a person who's trapped in a certain ideology. He has the capacity to rise up in the world, in the tarot card sense of the world, the external. You can be famous. You can be. Was he going to be a big name in the National Security Agency in the end?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if anyone
Oh
has
yeah,
anyone
okay.
ever seen
Not
it.
everybody's seen this. Why have you not all seen this? Go watch
Because
this movie right now. He was going to be somebody, something, in somewhere, and yeah, I mean, he has a choice. He has a choice to make, choosing either the sacred or the profane, and choosing the world or truth and his own character.
I have a
And
feeling that
it's good.
I have a feeling that movie's going to make a resurgence somewhere, but or sometime soon, I think. But I think you're right. It really showcases the breaking of a very confining reactionary way of living, and then introduces the value of true human connection and how valuable those things are for everybody. And I mean, everybody gets like not healed, and it's not even corny. It's very real the way that the outcome.
It's a
It
good
does seem
movie. I mean,
optimistic.
if you think that, like, those two little bastards. Not that I'm jealous. I think they were 18 or 19 when they wrote that.
Yeah, it's been Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, right?
Fuck
They're in
them.
the
Fuck
they're
them
in
for
the
making
movie.
such a fucking
They
classic.
acted it. They're the main actors.
And then won a fucking Oscar for it. Fuck those
Yeah,
guys. I hate
yeah,
them.
it's amazing, man.
Yeah,
Shit.
it's amazing, and it's not corny. Like it deals with some pretty heavy topics, and it's a success. It's a success of a movie. Can I make 2 movie recommendations?
Yeah, I was gonna ask you actually.
Netflix, White Tiger.
Okay.
It's an Indian-made movie. It is Tolstoy, Nietzsche. It is Shakespeare. It is funny. It is horrifying and fascinating. Watch White
Okay.
Tiger, kids. It's a good movie.
Okay.
The other one that weirdly made me cry was My Name is Dolomite with Eddie Murphy. And it's a nice story. If people know that the real story wasn't nice, please don't ruin my fancy in the comments. It's kind of a comeback story of a guy who becomes a famous stand-up comedian, very much in the style of Patrice O'Neill, and then makes a movie and has no idea how to make a movie. So he just pulls a bunch of people together. But it's got some nice cameos for the old heads. Obviously, it's Eddie Murphy, who's not done anything for a while. Wesley Snipes is in there. Chris Rock pops up in there. Bunch of good little cameos. But it's a good film about entrepreneurialism. It's a good film about people just coming together for a project, not really knowing what they're doing, but just naively surging ahead. And it's a good education on niche subjects. But I think it's nice to just see people pulling together to do a thing just to entertain, purely with good intent. The intent is to try and entertain people. Now, if there's a dark subtext to this story, don't fucking tell me. Just let me enjoy it as it was. God damn you.
Interesting. Yeah. Movies are dead now.
All that's finished. All that's finished.
All that's gone. And you're right. I think what I'm pointing at, why I brought up Good Will Hunting, is because that movie illustrates the thing that I think we're missing. I mean, we haven't seen a movie like that, but not even specifically the movie, just the subtext of the film being these. I mean, it's not a fancily shot film. I mean, the whole thing could be shot now on an iPhone and it would look better, like.
It's actually a film from another age, which will age everybody here. Like, doesn't matter how old you are. Like, if you realize that Good Will Hunting is from a different time in human existence, one that, I mean, the way we live now, they couldn't have seen that. And it's not that long ago. It can't be much more than 20 years ago. Can't be much more, is it? Like late 90s film, and it's a naive film, and it's a very human film, and you almost, I mean, just think of it: two kids come together with a story and a fucking script and some acting clout, and then act the shit out of a film. No, that doesn't exist anymore. That's gone.
Right. So, I mean, yeah. I mean, all the content that you see now, I mean, on TikTok, I mean, I do agree it's not I think because boring is the wrong word. It's just not great. It's just not nutritious. It's bad for your brain synapses, but that's the new approach to things. I mean, let's get existential dread in 60 seconds of this dude who makes sweatshirts. Like that's the content that we have now. Like directly, but it's not even hinted at. It's just
it's not how should I put it? The content that is there is good and it has value. For sure it has value. I think what we all need to realize is that sitting on your own with a device in your hand, pushing the screen is boring. Like there's just something dead about that. There's just something so lifeless. It's such a simulation of contact. And it tricks you. It tricks your brain. You're like, oh, I'm having conversations with all these funny and amusing and sexy and interesting and insightful people. You're not. You're not.
Yeah.
You're not speaking to any of them.
On the contrary, I mean, is it really any less boring than watching a sunset? Because I love doing that too. It's just it's still a low stimulation activity. The sunset's just more intrinsically meaningful. There's more. I guess depends on what your values are, but there's just more.
It does depend on what your values are. It depends on what bores you, I suppose, on what you find. There's maybe I should say it like this: I don't think it's sustainable. Like watching sunsets, you can do until the day you die. This, please God, let this be a phase and let it die. Let it die within the next 5 or 10 years. I'm so sick of walking around. I'm walking around Ibiza, which is beautiful. And everybody's got a fucking phone in their hands to do everything, to talk, to look at the maps, to listen to music, everything. And I was like, it's actually quite a nice day. There's like birds tweeting. It's pretty nice. Put your head up, look around. It's all right, You'll be dead one day. Maybe I should get T-shirts that say that on it. You'll be dead one day. Stop acting like you're immortal. One day you'll be dead and this will be over. So take a look around.
Yeah, I mean, but this is the thing. This is the nature of the ever evolving postmodern world. It's in the soil, so it's almost just too far in to completely remove. It comes with every step you take on the pavement, and I think that's the biggest challenge that the modern world has is, the balance of having the iPhone microchip stuck to her feet.
Oh, that thing that I said to you before about the Pentagon has developed this fucking microchip. That's actually a real thing, and people are already like they're keen for it.
Of course,
the microchip detects if you have COVID-19, and it will drain it from your system if it finds it.
Dude, I saw on the fucking it drains it. It detects it and drains the virus.
That's what I read.
It must be true. Anyways, so on the
there's no way you do with viruses, aren't they? Like a milkshake that gets into your system and you can just drain them like a lymph gland.
I imagine it to be like a plunger and just that fucking
giant. It releases some micro leeches that leech your body. It's like next level medieval medicine.
Thanks, Elon Bezos. So I saw a post it was like under New York Times, and it mentioned the report of Johnson & Johnson creating blood clots. And then the comments were like, well, this is a very rare case. I'm still taking any vaccine that I'll get. Yes, me too. I will take anyone as soon as I possibly can. Like, what the fuck? I mean, they were deleting comments for sure. You just
deleting them like whack-a-mole.
You just saw a post that says this gives you blood clots and the government had to remove it, and your first response is, I want to take any of the one that I can get immediately.
You remember when I was the guy that said, let's not protest, let's just go with the flow and just quietly question this stuff? Where's that guy now? I don't know where that guy's gone. He's gone now, though. I wish I could speak to him and tell him how bad the situation you're actually in is, because it's bad.
Dude, like I'm such in a fog because I'm trying to reevaluate my own nature in terms of my possibly confrontational being. And that's why I'm balancing out the Zen ideal and then the situation that we're all in. And I'm like, I don't know if I can just not be conflict ridden, especially in this time. You know, I think there's a natural fighting nature. Do I indulge in it? Do I step back in it? Do I step back in the ring and have my liver fucking freak out on me again? Like, you know what I mean? But the circumstances of everything amplifies it heavily.
Well, we do have in Buddhism the allowance for violence. If your action stops a greater violence from taking place, then absolutely, not only should you, not only can you, but you should do that. You should stop people from behaving in a way that is evil and criminal. So it's how you do it. It's the intent, because from Buddhism it should be right thought, right word, right deed, right meditation, right intent. So if you're doing it performatively, if you're doing it narcissistically or egotistically, the karma would be bad. If you're doing it with clean intent, then I'm talking pure Buddhism here, which, you know, for what it's worth, then the karma should be good.
Yeah. I mean, it's just so fucking weird now that even if I'm trying to take a social media break and not indulging in this type of content, you feel it still. You know,
I don't think anybody would expect you right now to keep. I don't think you're under any moral obligation to do anything about this through YouTube. I actually think that it's a catch-22. It would be like trying to sweep the floor with a fucking razor blade or something. It's just like wrong tool, wrong job, wrong place. And, you know, I won't name names here, but there are people getting deleted, deplatformed, and suspended left, right, and center. People are contacting me since I released that video saying about my getting banned from Instagram. Tons of emails from people reporting the same thing. Yeah, it was the joking about vaccines that got me. Joke like funny memes about vaccines. Fuck you. Yeah. It's considered for what you just said 2 minutes ago. You would now be considered anti-vax.
I was gonna say, I did not say that. I'm just lip syncing a TikTok audio right now that said that. It's not me. So please.
There's some things that if we want to say on here, we have to be like, oh, I'm working on a story. And the story features a guy that looks just like me. And he said to another character in the story, blah, 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 blah. It's more of the same woke mentality that's infected everything. It's epistemological dichotomania. If you're not 100% for it, you're 100% against it. It's insane. We live in late 1930s Germany right now.
I mean, speaking of optimism in late 2021 Germany, my latest post, I vented my frustrations with the whole cultural shift. Let's go for that. And those two Instagrams, I think that you've reposted too, like Mole Francis, or it's a girl who posts these really colorful texts, but it's basically like anti-cancel culture type.
Oh yes, Molly, yeah.
Yeah.
It is Molly. Is it actually pronounced? Oh yeah.
No, I fucked up. I butchered the hell out of that.
No, I think it's MOLLE.
Oh no, it's Mole. It's Mole Francis or whatever.
So in my little head, I've always just gone Molly.
Maybe her name is Molly. Molly Francis. And
That's
I just
fucking
butchered it because I said mole.
You've made it French.
Mole Francis.
This is Mole Francis. And I was like, it's Molly. It's our mate Molly there. Yeah, she's good. Follow her, folks, on Instagram.
I highly doubt. I mean, I think that it's not Mole. So I'm completely wrong. I don't think she would name herself Mole Francis.
You're backing out of this.
I'm not a smart person, so I'm not creating content anymore. I quit. Anyways, so like this is posts like this, like public humiliation is cruel and ineffective unless the intent is to scare people into submission and compliance. And I posted a bunch of stuff like that has similar topics.
She writes very, very clearly on this subject, and she's clearly writing from the left.
Yeah.
She is of the left. She's just
Yes.
and we need a whole new group, leftists who are anti-woke, LAW, the law.
So this has a 376 comments, and they're all supportive, man.
Right.
You know, they a lot of actually reading the comment section gave me a lot of hope. It's
Yes.
just that no one says anything because of the crazy minority of Twitter accounts are screaming so fucking loud to that it just makes everybody like quiet. And as I'm reading these comments, it's like actually a lot of people feel exactly what this post was saying.
Yes.
It's just no one says anything because I mean, you know why?
I spoke to Rebel Wisdom, the YouTube channel.
Think so.
Rebel Wisdom. I spoke to him today, and possibly going to do an interview with him over the next couple of weeks, which will be good. And we spoke at length about the woke thing actually being a manifestation of a kind of narcissism. It's a kind of fragile narcissism, and I won't spoil it because I'll cover it in the interview. But I can actually break down the coordinates that exactly match the behaviors of woke cancel culture and a type of a fragile narcissism. It's like fragile narcissism with a very big injection of needing to be looked at. So a kind of histrionic, it would be like the psychiatric diagnosis would be the histrionic fragile narcissism.
I think we all know.
I'm talking a lot today. I'm talking in
no,
run on sentences.
You're not. Not at all. No, you're doing fine, man.
I feel like I'm on coke or something.
Really?
Wait,
or maybe
just 1 second.
You know what it is? Time is slower. We're in your new country. You're seeing the sun again, and you're taking it bit by bit. And I think it just feels like you're talking a lot, but actually you're not talking that much at all.
I'm loving it. Can I tell the people about my new video that I'm so pleased with?
Yes.
I did a new video, folks. It's on my Richard Grannon Philosophy channel. It's about the Aeon of Horus. This is a concept from Aleister Crowley, and how it ties in with Jung's concept of the puer aeternus. And I think they must have been reading each other's stuff. It's so close, and how that feeds into the epidemic.
You have the quotes
cancel
at
culture.
all, or no?
I'm on my iPhone, so I can't.
Okay.
I could only lift up my laptop and show it, which might.
There were some really interesting quotes in your video that was as if these people looked into a fucking, what do you call it, a fortune ball?
A crystal ball. A crystal
Yeah.
ball. I'll read out from 1904. Shall I give that quick quote from 1904?
If you, I mean, I could try.
I've got it.
Okay.
I pulled it. It's on my laptop on my lap. So how do I open it? Oh, there we go. Okay, boomer. So this is Aleister Crowley writing in 1904. He predicted that we'd gone into an Aeon of Horus. He channeled a spirit called Iowas in Egypt, and he said that we'd been through the Aeon of Isis, which is a matriarchal time, the Aeon of Osiris, which is a patriarchal time of Yahweh, and now we're in the Aeon of Horus, who's the son of both, but he's a child god, and if he's negatively aspected, it infantilizes all of us. He says, Aleister Crowley, 1904, Horus rules the present period of 2,000 years beginning in 1904. Everywhere his government is taking root. Observe for yourselves the decay of the sense of sin, the growth of innocence and irresponsibility, the strange modifications of the reproductive instinct with a tendency to become bisexual or epicene, the childlike confidence in progress, combined with a nightmare fear of catastrophe, against which we are yet half unwilling to take precautions. Consider the outcrop of dictatorships, only possible when moral growth is in its earliest stages, and the prevalence of infantile cults like communism, fascism, pacifism, and health crazes, occultism in nearly all its forms, religions sentimentalized to the point of practical extinction. Consider the popularity of the cinema, the football pools, and guessing competitions. 1904. That was the equivalent of TikTok, guessing competitions. All devices for soothing fractious infants, no seed of purpose in them. Consider sport, the babyish enthusiasms and rages which it excites, whole nations disturbed by disputes between boys. Consider war, the atrocities which occur daily, and leave us unmoved and hardly worried. We are children. Aleister Crowley, The Book of the Law, 1904.
That is a crystal ball, man. Yeah, it's as if he actually looked at the gloss and saw TikTok and everything play out in the last fucking 4 years. It's eerie, man.
So like Jung, just 10 years later in 1915, starts talking about the archetype of the puer aeternus, which we're both archetypes for, by the way, which is the eternal child god. It's like militarized millennialism. You never want to be one thing. You kind of want to float over reality. Horus flies. He's the hawk-headed god. Peter Pan flies. The Little Prince on the planet flies on his thing far away. And we become obsessed with ideas of individuality and freedom. And it's a kind of, it breeds its own separate form of narcissism. This social media style narcissism fits in exactly with the Aeon of Horus and the concept of the puer aeternus.
Yes. So
the female version is a puella aeternus. Go on, sorry, mate.
Before I forget, like how it parallels is because social media, if you can solidify it, is floating above reality like Peter Pan, and it's a very infantilized mode of humanity. I mean, it's purposely like that. It's just YouTube is fucking pretentious know-it-all in science class now,
right?
Right, that's totally what it is. And fucking
those are the only people who can come onto YouTube new and do anything, folks. If you want a YouTube channel, you've got to be pretentious know-it-all in science class or you're fucked.
That, and then you have Facebook being the, I mean, what, Walmart Karen? Like that's, man or woman, Walmart Karen, right? And then you have TikTok, which is the trendy middle schooler who's really good at Fortnite. It's like each platform is an infantilized version of that generation.
Yeah.
So this version of reality just floats over practical reality and somehow finds its way like jizzing all over it, but never becoming fully integrated.
And integration is key. So in the Thoth Tarot, which is Crowley's own tarot deck, he put the Horus was on card number 20 of the major arcana, which is the world. It's not the world, it's judgment. Sorry. It's judgment. Now, judgment on the Rider-Waite Tarot is the Archangel Gabriel coming down, blowing a trumpet, and people rising from their graves on Judgment Day. The idea here is that if you obey the call of finding your life's purpose, here's the optimism, you will be saved. But it takes tremendous courage. But negatively aspected, that same card, Horus in the Crowley Tarot, Judgment for the rest of us Tarot, is represented by the inner critic. It's actually the inner critic. It's the harsh inner voice that badgers you because you're being a coward and you're not fulfilling your purpose. So there is a way out of this. And I think the way out of this is to say, hey, look, we've got like the toys and the tech and the ideology and all of the new stuff. We're like kids on Christmas morning. We can do what we want with this. We can be assholes if we want to be, in which case we have this and we're fucked. Or we can grow up and say, yes, it's fun to play. It's fun to torture people. It's fun to do genocide. It's fun to do all of the horrors that we do. Let's put a uniform on. We'll have a catchy song and we'll go and murder some people. Great. We did that. Let's stop. If we grow up and we obey the call, we find our purpose and we can choose rebirth. We can choose redemption. That's my optimism. And I actually think we can see signs that we're moving towards that. I think we're sick of playing.
Well, that's the rise of Jordan Peterson. I mean, Jordan Peterson blew up because his main message was just find a purpose or something find a responsibility, which is your purpose, or you can do the voice. You somehow you figured out how to do the voice way better than me. I can't.
Yeah, no, over time. Yeah, you could do the voice. When I'm on my own, mate, I'm really weird and I talk to myself a lot, and it's usually in weird voices. And so I would hate to, like the iPhone tells you how many hours you've got screen time. I would hate to know how many hours of my life I have spent doing silly voices on my own. You know what happens? Sometimes I think if MI5 ever wanted to blackmail me, they'd just be recording my iPhone of me saying dumb shit over and over again, over and over. So after hours of going, well, it seems to me that the key is not exactly, you got to pick up responsibility and make your damn bed. Eventually I got there, but God knows how long it took.
Dude,
it's not natural.
If I close my eyes, I at first here I would definitely think I'm listening to Daddy Peterson for sure, man.
Have you seen any of these memes where they dub the red skull? They have the red skull. Yeah, they're great. They're so good. Make your damn bed.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, he's a super villain for that message, but I mean,
an actual super villain Nazi. Oh, how wonderful. How wonderful.
Like, I'd hate to admit this, but that fucking villain character looks so awesome. Yeah. Like, the fucking military outfit with the red skull, like that's a badass villain, man. But I mean,
you've got to hand it to that group of people. I mean, I think it's all designed by Hugo Boss. They definitely had flair, and I think there's got to be a reason why so many sci-fi games, especially zombie games, use that look, use horror films.
You know what it is? Because I mean, speaking of the cult, I don't think we can say the party is named the Nationalists. They dealt with a lot with the occult, right? Yeah. I mean, the whole insignia is actually an old Hindu thing, right?
Yes.
So it's like they tapped into the deepest archetype and integrated it into their identity, which becomes that what do you say? Timeless mythological villain figure that anybody can recognize.
Yes.
Universally.
Yes. Oh yeah, no, it was done very, very deliberately. They had it's weird to think about it, like the right way to think about them. And there's no equivalent now, and it would be wrong to draw a comparison with somebody now anyway, I suppose. But think of them as being very savvy, very modern, very
careful.
I mean, the older guys who really understood culture. What would you say?
I was like, careful now. Don't make it sound like praise now.
Yeah, don't praise them, absolutely. But what they did was remarkable. They were also thieves. They did in the conceptual sense. What do you call that? Plagiarists. They plagiarized massively. Like, there's very little that's original there. There was a movement in that direction in Germany that was, oh God, I mean, you can trace it back 60 years before this chap came along.
Yeah. I mean, it's just the imagery and the ideology behind it is just so mythologically villainous that it's so universal without even having to explain the origins of the fucking thing,
Here's what I should have said, and it would have sounded much clearer. They understood PR. They understood PR before PR was PR. They understood marketing. They understood branding. They understood the modern world. And
it's funny because China is trying it, but it's like not all there,
Well, I think they've done it the right way. I think they've gone, we don't really get this. Let's pay Hollywood. Let's just pay people who do understand it. Because some of their efforts are a little rough.
Yeah. I mean,
don't they just pay people on TikTok to sing? They pay white people to sing China's Great on TikTok.
Oh yeah, and there's these really, really spooky TikToks where they take an attractive Chinese model and they put her in working class environments, like she's like hammering a sword together, or like she's like fixing a car. Like, and there's this creepy robotic voice that is like, this is Chun Yi, and she works 20 hours each hour. She works 20 hours a day to feed her family back into the village. And a strong Chinese woman who does that. And it's so fucking like, it looks straight out of a dystopian sci-fi.
Yeah, it's like 1940s Stalinist style. Yes. Look at this strong Russian woman feeding the country.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Look at
crazy.
young Yuri here. He works 15 hours a day. Why can't you, comrade?
Yeah, their PR approach is definitely, I think, a bit outdated, but you know, they did make TikTok though. So
If you see anything like that, please send it to me. I'd love to
well,
I'd love to
there's
watch
a
it.
whole
I love propaganda. I love it.
there's a whole YouTube channel. I think his name's Lao Y86, and he
Okay.
he does these Chinese TikTok deep dives.
Right.
He grew up in China. Oh, he didn't grow up. He traveled to China when it was still good, and then he moved out, and now he's furious about the new government, and that he just constantly makes videos about how shitty it is.
He wants to be careful. He might find
I
himself
know.
falling down the
The
stairs.
balls on. There's two dudes. Is Serpentza and fucking Lao Y, and they're just like, I'm like, dude, you're
With the
still.
Chinese, there's not even a long lead time. It's not like, oh, somebody in America says something they shouldn't, and 2 years later they died in a helicopter crash. This is like 2 days later. They're just gone. It's like, where's they gone? They're gone. That's it.
I mean,
When they're a billionaire, yeah, it doesn't make any difference. They're gone.
I don't know how they've survived this long. They're still making videos. So I mean, I guess think about this: if we're all ever paranoid, Richard, we're not making videos like that.
That's true. That's true. We should grade our paranoia to where we're up to.
But the only bad thing is that you actually got your Instagram deleted, so it's a little closer than we expect.
Yeah, it was. I'm after a while of thinking about it. I think like sharing and liking memes about vaccines when you are. I mean, tactically, like if you have people's ear. Okay, maybe I'm reading too much into this. If it was me, I don't want a reasonable sounding person saying this is a bad idea, whatever it is. Maybe it's not that. Maybe it's playing ping pong. And we really, as a government, we want everyone to play ping pong. And somebody who might actually not sound like one of those crazy anti ping pong people who are like slathering and screaming, going, fuck ping pong. This person just going, yeah, maybe ping pong's silly. I don't know. That's the guy you got to, or that's the goal you got to stop because they. Do you know what I'm saying?
Totally. I mean, like you can let somebody like Jalix owns scream his way out, and you know he's still gonna be that crazy screaming frog dude. You know,
right?
But if there is somebody that just usually a bit more reasonable in their content, it's something that you definitely have to wipe out before it gets too much.
Yeah, and I mean, in my little head, I was like, they're just memes. It's nothing too on the nose. I mean, I personally, I don't really have like a massively strong position on that subject.
I think I heard this. It was on like it was a podcast that Tim Dillon was on or something, you know, and apparently I think he brought up a theory or one of his guests or something that this just sounds like an old wives' tale. If you crack your knuckles, your fingers will fall off. No, but like apparently the algorithm on YouTube and most likely most other platforms, they keep an eye on what videos you watch. So if you make a somewhat problematic video or that's somewhat controversial, they'll also look at the content that you're liking and consuming to grade you in terms of where you are in controversy scale.
Ideology at its purest. This is an algorithm that is checking your identity to see whether you have the right to say what you have to say before you say it.
Yes. So
fuck these guys, man.
Yes. So if you are already in your private, quote unquote, private time consuming anti-VAX content, or you're watching Jalix Owns and you know whoever the hell, and if you post a video that gets demonetized or something, that you're most likely in a different scale on the demonetization field.
That's so crazy. And when people they say to me, even to this day, Pierre, politics has nothing to do with it. Stop talking about politics. I'm like, are you out of your fucking mind? How can you say that? How could, like, I'm being checked to see. I think that is what's happening. In fact, I would say I'm 90% certain that is what's happening. And what it means is that no statement is made naively. So if you want to say, you know, a sensible society should have the police, and you just take that statement as a piece of content, depending on who says it and where says it, is whether you're going to be demonetized, defunded, or deleted.
Yeah.
That is pure politics. That is pure ideology. That is not. There's no fairness to that. There's no reason to that. That's a completely irrational. The thing that we're sinking into is a kind of a strange control freakery. It's this weird sense of like the children are misbehaving. It's very smother mother, danger daddy, finger waggy stuff. And it's like, just can't people just think? You don't trust people? Because if I'm an idiot and I'm just like, oh, there's a man on the moon and he's made of cheese, just let me say it. If it's stupid and I'm wrong, why don't you let me say it? What's wrong with me saying it then?
Yeah, I mean, fucking let the flat earthers believe fucking flat earth.
Right.
They're gonna figure out some other fucking cuckoo shit without the internet,
Right. Let them go, baby. Let them say what they want, unless they're saying something that we have laws for that kind of thing. But that's a separate issue. That's a completely separate issue. So yeah, it's ideological. People who keep telling me it's not political, get the fuck out of here.
It's so hard to live without conflict in your own head in these times because I can't just. It's so hard to hear and see just the most falsities surrounding every element of anything you see now. They're so full of fucking shit. And then, I it's hard for me to just I'm actually trying really hard to just be like, that's what they believe and that's just how it is and these things are just going to go. But there's something that's just I'm walking around with a broken beer bottle stuck in my diaphragm, man. And I'm trying to be like, is it appropriate for me to just let it go or do I keep fighting? Because it's like, it's so crazy how big of a lie everything is currently. And, it drives me insane.
No, I think you can, even from a Zen perspective, say there is a right time to fight. And if there is a right time to fight, it is now, for sure. I have no doubt that now may be the only time to fight. This may be the last time. This may be the last chance we get. And so, no, I don't think it's time to sit back and just let this happen. I think it is actually time to just call it out and say, look, if we keep the problem, one of the many problems, the problem, as if there's one, Jesus help me. One of the many problems with this is you're talking to people who are doing it with good intentions. They're doing it with the best of intentions, but they just can't. They can't break out of that ideological hallway that they're trapped in.
I was talking to my friend about. I was trying to explain my grief. I really do feel like I'm grieving because
you are grieving. You're traumatized and you're grieving. Believe me.
Yeah, it was like a heavy loss because and I was like, how do I explain this without making it so abstract? And I'm like, okay, my audience being fairly like younger women, right? And I feel like I'm this at times, not all the time, maybe a bigger brother type thing, I don't know. Not all the time. But and it feels like I'm watching my younger sister grow up through adolescence and she starts rebelling and like just starts doing drugs and going out with random gang members and shit. And I just have to be like, this is just, I can't do anything. Can't fight them. Just let it happen. Just let it. It's just they'll find their way. I can't tell them what to do. It's their own life. But I'm just watching. She's coming home at 4 a.m. with fucking cocaine running out of her ears and shit. It's like, yeah.
so far, I would say like the conversations. The conversations I've had are long and hard, but they leave me very optimistic. You only really have to sort of stick in it for like, okay, if it's never been one conversation for me. Let's say it was one conversation with one person, imaginary person. You got to stick in it for about an hour, and you have to. The way that you frame the conversation has to be non-confrontational. Like if you're saying, "Look, you're wrong," that's going to shut things down. It's always got to be from, I want you to come to your own conclusions. All I'm saying is I don't think you've thought this completely through, but I'm open to being corrected. So can we talk? Yes, let's talk. We love to talk. Great. Okay. tell me what you think is happening and what we should do. And they'll give you like this, and you go, you know, everything you just said is actually correct. I agree with you, but I don't think you're taking it past this bit. Can we go here? Can we just, and it's like coaching. It really is. It's like therapy. You go, can we go?
And she goes, fuck you, stop being a racist, and then leaves.
I haven't had that conversation. Maybe I've been lucky. Maybe the people I'm speaking to are already leaning open, have an openness to thinking about it in a different way.
Clarify, because I'm seeing comments like, we're not all young girls, not all of us. So young girls don't follow PRXO. All right, okay, let's just leave
it. Not here. No,
dude. Wow. Of course not here or my second channel. My main channel, it's obviously usually. I'm gonna pull up my fucking analytics, anyways. There's a confrontational nature playing into it as always. Can't help it. But yeah, I don't know. That was the closest painting that I can paint to compare the feeling, you know. And you just, and I'm trying to figure out, like, I'm trying to just chill.
Okay, so would it give you like a different? So if I said it like this, if people would just, they could think whatever they want to think, but they were trained to think, how hopeful would you be that things would change? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, there's no ideological push either way. We're not pushing you right or left. We're just training you to think clearly, and then you debate. And if after the end of this course you still think exactly the same thing, that's totally fine. But at least you can now defend it with a clarity and a nuance that you couldn't before. My optimism would be that if people got that, they wouldn't be thinking like this. They wouldn't be thinking in these terms. They would think in a different way.
Yeah, I think it's not even like believe exactly what I'm telling you. It's more of the brick wall aspect now.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. You're talking about the shutdown bit.
The shutdown bit, and just trying to go against my own nature of constantly trying to poke a window through the wall. You know, I can't. I don't think I can operate any other way, and I'm trying so hard to. This is the reason why I keep thinking about the Zen approach to things, because I'm like, is that possible? Especially with my nature or just humanity in general? I don't know.
Here's a coaching question for you. What would happen if you did? What's the worst thing that would happen if you just let it ride? If you just were like, yeah, cool, just do that. What's the worst outcome?
Let it ride in terms of like
take the Zen approach. Don't challenge anything. Just let them think what they want to think. Let them say what they want to say. What's so bad about that?
I have to take some time to dig deep enough to figure out what that is, but it's quite, I don't know, it's a visceral need to, I don't know,
do you think there's a broad scale disaster there? Do you think that actually for them and the people around them it could be really, really disastrous?
Yes.
Real world disaster?
Yes.
Okay. That's the way. I'm asking you this in a very Jordan Peterson way, or Jungian way, because you're acting that way. That's why I'm asking you that. You're acting like if you don't say something, you are acting as though, well, what you've said is that you feel impotent to stop them from doing something that's really going to hurt them and the people around them.
Yeah. What
does that disaster look like? Do you know? I mean, I've said it that I think it leads to gulags and genocide.
Well, we're in it. This is already here. Like it's just here. Like, you know, it's not. I mean,
you mean this is directly has a direct causality to
dude.
That problem.
Fucking it. I'm an artist, creative, sensitive spirit. I don't care about gulags. I don't like it when friends aren't friends anymore. I don't like it when families aren't families, man. That just hurts my heart seeing that shit.
Yeah, because families get gulagged and friends get gulagged. I mean, it becomes a mode of being in the world, right?
That's what's worrying. It's voluntary. It's not Red Skull throwing you in a concentration camp. It's fuck you, mom, BLM, and then mom goes, fuck you, Sally, MAGA. You know, it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? It pisses me. Like, dude, I'm just like, geez, you know, and then like everything's just obliterating. People like can't even talk about like fucking video games without like fucking throwing Islam, you know, in the tenets and you know, there are times where it's appropriate, but like, guys,
so when you said with video games, you're saying that like other issues are being brought in that shouldn't be there in the video games.
yes, like just some fucking shooting the shit, like conversations. I think that's another thing in Good Will Hunting that I appreciated too. You know, seeing these human conversations that are just human. You know, people cussing for no reason, talking about this, whatever this, and it just, I don't know, man. It's not a. What kind of fucking mental prison is the world going to if just this keeps colliding? You know, I don't know.
I would say that sounds to me like you feel like you have a moral obligation to do something because it's ruining the world.
Yeah, but it's like, I'm fuck. You know?
I didn't sign up for that.
Yeah, I didn't fucking sign up for this shit. And you know, I'm trying so hard to just be like, I'll just make silly TikToks only and make it humorous and do this and do this and do this. But I freeze. What?
No, I mean, all joking aside, it's a very, very serious problem. It's a very, very serious problem. The thing is, I mean, these things are cyclical. They're trends. It won't be maintained. This is not another 1,000-year Reich that we're looking at. It's a trend. It's a trend, and it's going.
Speaking of trends,
yeah,
D'Angelo Wallace, the leader of the cancellation army, is now taking down his most viewed hit pieces, and he is no longer going to make any more.
Well done, Pierre. Well, that proves that you can have an effect in the world.
Not gonna lie, I mean, it's not proven, but I mean, my morale kind of boosted up a little bit. It's like I just needed a sip of the Gatorade on the ropes, you know. Needed to put my mouth guard back in.
It's already shifting. It's already shifting, and I think like you got old heads like me who would just be like, "Oh, just do whatever you want." Like, what a bunch of university radicals are going to radical. I dyed my hair purple. I was on that train. I was, you know, studying feminism, and I was a radical leftist. It's fine, you know, whatever. And old heads now are going, "What? My bank is telling me I have to do this." Like Douglas Murray says, like he doesn't want his bank. He's a gay man. He doesn't want his bank to hold a gay pride month because that's his bank. He wants his bank to charge him less fucking interest and to do the job of banking, for fuck's sake. Reasonable request. And old heads now are going, you know what? No, stop. Just stop. And I'm very, very optimistic with that it's going to change because if a guy like me, it can be asked to burn calories, making sure, calling out and changing it, then a ton of people can as well.
Dude, Douglas Murray, the reason why I laughed, because he has a way of delivering these really dry one-liners.
He's great.
Fucking hilarious.
Yeah, he's like peak private school boy.
Yeah, like, I'm gay, but I don't want my banking system to applaud me. You know?
He said something like, "I want shorter queues at the cash register," or something like that. He said, really good.
It's fucking hilarious the way he lays shit out, man. Yeah, man. I mean, it's I don't think I've felt. What I'm trying to measure out here is that is it truly a problem that I feel at an instinctual, visceral, moral level, or is this just some fucking inner issue with myself?
No, it's a real world problem. It's a real world problem, and it is damaging reality. It's been doing it for years. Like, it's causing violence, death. It's really, really affecting reality. It's not some niche university academic spat. It's in the world. And look, this is supposed to be about optimism, but let's be realistic. The world powers at the moment are flexing because we have somebody who's in charge of the world superpower, who's up for this woke nonsense, who's not looking very strong, who's trying it on right now. Every fucker. Russia, China, even Iran. Oh, okay, Iran was attacked first, but you know, our major enemies of the West are flexing right now. They're pushing the boundaries. It's not good. It's really not good. Like what's been going on in the last 2 weeks diplomatically, ladies and gentlemen, is not good. These are, yes, it could be saber rattling. It could all die off in 2 weeks. We could have another subject or not. I mean, so no, it has a real world effect because it used to always trickle down from the top. But now with this kind of populism, it's trickling up from the bottom. Oh, that's a disgusting image. It trickled up from my bottom.
You got your ankles tied up to the ceiling, or what?
Yeah. Satan's jizz trickled up from my bottom. What's the name of that young rapper who likes Satan's jizz? Lil Nas. I'm Lil Nas in this scenario. It trickled up from my bottom.
You know what's funny about that? If you call Lil Nas X Lil Satan, some people get offended, even though he purposely was Satan in that video.
Oh, really? They get offended? Oh,
wow. Yeah, man. And I'm trying to balance this. And Yuri Brezhnev said this, he actually tried to infiltrate Eastern yogi teaching and the little visitations that Westerners would go to, because in his head at the time with the communist KGB, they were interested in this ideology because it makes everybody blame themselves and do nothing about political shifts. Or
that's why I said it's a psyop. The whole New Age movement is a psyop, 100%.
Yeah, and as I'm looking at these things about just things externally or outside of their own control, and just enter yourself and the change comes within, which is true to a certain degree here, but goddamn, it just really, even if I don't have social media on, I'm trying my best to take a break, but it just really does feel like I'm letting the fucking place burn down, even though I might have a hose. I got one kind of hose,
you have a much stronger social conscience than I do. The sense that you're a member of a community that's hurting itself and you feel responsible for that. I think that indicates you're a far more moral human being than I am. Well, I sleep like a fucking baby. I sleep like a baby. I kind of want people to hurt themselves because I don't really like humans.
Because it's my fucking generation, man. You know, it's us that are the ones that are pushing this fucking craziness right now.
Yeah. Yeah, as I said before, the acid burned out my circuitry, and I'm like, we're all worms. We're just maggots.
Yeah. Well,
I'm joking, ladies and gents. It's a joke.
That was my secondary route to Zen, which is let them fuck themselves up, and that's what I'm trying to at least accept that aspect. Well, they're fucking themselves up. Just let them fuck themselves up. But here I am watching actual MMA videos and boxing videos instead. Yeah. It's good. It just transfers to another route.
I think that probably the answer would be something along the lines of balance and integration, where you say you do need individualism. You do need a sense of, part of the psychosis, part of the mass psychosis, which is a sort of a possession of the collective shadow that we're going through right now, is the obsession with global issues.
Yeah.
So we're thinking globally, I must do this for this group, and it's my fucking job because I am and it's why? Just clean up your damn room or do something for the homeless person you can see down the road.
I remember you said that, this is true, by the way, when you said my problem is that I like the internet and I like technology.
That's true, yeah.
And I feel like the sewage system combusted and the shite is seeping out my front porch. And it's get off my fucking porch, kids. Move your feces out of here. It's going online now, which was my fucking safety haven and my third parent growing up, my fucking, where I found novelty, how I learned how to dance, how I learned to communicate with everything, and how I learned how to be a fucking human is just covered in shite. And it's get off my fucking porch, dude.
When you're on your own smaller channels like Pierre Extra and that, do you still get?
No. That's
No.
like a room that's on the third floor. You know what I
Okay,
mean?
okay, that's safe. That's safe from. That's a safe space from the safe spaces. No,
Yeah.
it's. I would say the proper frame for this is it's a real problem, but it's not obvious to me what should be done about it. For me, I've started, as you've seen, just slowly, calmly starting to call it out and just say, okay, what are we doing here? Is this the world we really want to live in? I'm very much inspired. Like when I was recovering from my knee surgery, the two books that I read first were the Dave Goggins book, where you have a Navy SEAL opening up about his childhood trauma, and the other one was Douglas Murray's book, and they were both very courageously written books. So I'm slowly, in my own way, I'm doing that kind of thing. And to be honest with you, a large number of people are for it. There are some people who get very, very. I can sense their emotionality when I attack socialism and communism because they're very attached to that in an ideological sense. But that makes sense to me. It doesn't depress me. I'm just like, well, you probably just haven't had that much experience in socialist and communist countries. You should try living in some.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a bit of hope though. It's just that the majority are really quiet, and seeing this, making my Instagram private, and I like privated like 80% of my photos. There's nothing problematic there necessarily. Why would I give that side of me to the public who I despise currently, sort of a thing.
No, I
But
understand. I that is a sentiment very, very near to my and dear to my heart.
yeah,
But that's kind of an effect of being bitten by wasps, and you swell up and you have a reaction. They're a minority. They're not real people. That's not a person. That's somebody who's really, really disturbed. In my case, they would be typically the problem for me would be actually somebody who's very disturbed, who's acting in a certain way because they've created an avatar of me in which I'm their dad and they're angry with their dad or whatever. In your case, you're talking to young people who more often than not are ideologically infected. And as I said to you before, you're not talking to a person, you're kind of talking to the hive mind, the artificial intelligence.
sure. But seeing all these comments that are good, like
Mm.
saying like you're not alone, Pierre, I feel this too. And it's like
Mm.
I'm glad you're saying something about it. And
Mm.
it is, I think, a good amount of people within my generation that is really burnt out with all this nonsense. And it's just the quiet ones.
Okay, if a slightly coaching question, sorry. If you released a video that actually honestly told the truth about how you feel and put it out there, would you feel better for just putting it out there and saying how you truly feel about this?
Wait till D'Angelo does it first.
You go first. Your move, bitch.
Dude, like, and that's just another one of those things is like, it won't work if I do it. And if some person like D'Angelo does it, everyone loves it, and then it's okay from there,
Why don't you do this? Or is it too? Are you chipping? Are you shooting holes in the boat that you're stood in if you do that?
That, yeah, for sure that, and then, but also it's like I'm really trying to get rid of the stressors in my life,
Mm.
and I'm trying to reevaluate my confrontational nature. Do I just keep making videos that I know will kind of seep under people's skin because I like making people question themselves? And
Mm.
like, do I do binaural beats videos or like ASMR videos? But man, it feels like I'm going against my combative ways.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if there's a place or a space where you can actually say what you think and test the waters. Maybe
There will be. Just wait till like the top 3 influencers say it first.
if you ever wanted to do it on my on the philosophy channel, I could interview about it on the philosophy channel. A good number of your subscribers would see it, and then you could test the water and see what the response is like.
But I've had this experience multiple times on the internet. I'll say a certain thing months before, people hate it, and then months after it, the tide shifts.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that whole Jubilee video, everyone hated me when that first came out, and then 2 years later, everyone's like, I see, you were right, Pierre. But
Right. So sometimes it's better to just wait a little bit and let the tide shift.
fuck being the pioneer. You know, it's like the damn Steve Jobs, Bill Gates syndrome. You know, you let
Right.
the one dude start it and then steal it and take all the credit afterwards. You know, that's how these things usually go. And the other guy dies broke and forgotten.
Yeah. No, it's you do have to have a sense of, like I was saying before, everybody watching this as well, like you've got to have a sense of your individual responsibility. It's really sick to constantly think in global terms.
Yeah.
We should think in global terms sometimes, but at what point does it become totally virtual and totally masturbatory? I personally can do nothing about most of the problems. Nothing.
Yeah.
Be like, well, you could send money, you could make a YouTube video. Yeah, what the fuck does that do?
Right.
It does
Right.
nothing except waste my time.
Yes. And you know, the least that I can do, because it's like, all right, what's the most immediate actions I can do in my own immediate life, right? So stop looking at fucking infuriating shit all the time. Okay. Maybe find a therapist, which I did. He's an awesome guy. Reminds me of Robin Williams within Good Will Hunting. And
put a cardigan on him.
Yeah, exactly. He wears it. And the other option is you know, find ways to use the internet or whatever without those things. But when you try to leave, you realize how much it's infested everything.
Yes.
It's really everywhere, man.
Yeah, it's everywhere. It's everywhere, and it's strong, and it is bad. But I mean, maybe this is a kind of malignant optimism on my part. It's that tidal thing. It goes in, it comes out, it goes up, it goes down. Everything is in flux, and even if it gets worse this year, I believe the end is in sight. I just think. I know I've watched people at close range change before my eyes. I've had the conversations with people
right? That's the problem. It's that. It's watching everyone turn to zombies, man.
Yeah. Watching people turn into zombies is depressing, and it probably is worse for the age group that you're talking to. But then again, I mean, you look at the age group that follows me and consider the power that they have. Really, I mean, and the particular demographic that follows me, the majority of the demographic that follows me, and the power that they have. I mean, that's where a lot of cancellations come from.
You know, it's funny because I was speaking with my friend and I'm like, because I'm just trying to elaborate what is actually bothering me. And I'm like, well, let's just say teenagers back then, what they did was they had giant side bangs and hair like me. They wore makeup and listened to My Chemical Romance and wore Vans and skinny jeans. The rebellion of today's generation is to make political upheaval and societal obliteration. That's the trend. It's no longer just like I listen to fucking Green Day.
Yeah, that's not that edgy.
Yeah,
you got to do a little more now.
Yeah, let's dismantle everything.
Which I, again, stupid optimism. I cannot help it. Part of my optimism is that I don't feel like they're not my people. I don't feel like the people who are saying, I don't feel like the people who are screaming, everything is racist, let's kill it, are not my people. I feel like they are my people. They're just in the grip of something. They're just in the grip. And I'm just like, I'm still of that ideology. The presentation of the problems, I agree with. Like 90% of radical leftists who say, here are the problems, I'll be like, yes. It's when they come with the solutions, I'm like, no, not that. That's never worked. It's against human nature. It's not going to be. So my optimism is to sort of like go, okay, you're not my enemy. I refuse to let you treat me as I'm not your enemy. Come here, be with me. Talk to me. If we talk and you can look at me and you can see I'm not evil. You look at my eyes, you say I'm not evil. I'm even open to being corrected. I'm open to meeting you where you are. I don't know, maybe it was stupid optimism, but I just believe in that. I think that there's something to that.
We'll scare ourselves into optimism, right?
Right.
I mean, what else are we gonna do in the meantime? I
Yeah.
mean, I can only hope that this is a trend, which most things are now, anyways, and seeing, lead figures in the situation change their sail, and seeing more people change their direction in terms of things. I mean, again, you and I have both talked about this. Let's hope it doesn't bounce too far on the other end.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We'll see it
Yeah,
play out.
which is a real possibility. I mean, when you say the other end, we're only actually talking between totalitarianism left or totalitarianism right. It's not even really the other. It's just a different uniform. It's just a slightly different coloured uniform the prison's called something slightly different when they throw you in for your thought crimes, but they're still thought crimes, and you're still a dissident. You're still a deplorable. The question is, are we going to move back towards a kind of liberal individualism, or are we going to keep marching towards collectivist authoritarianism? And I don't know why I'm so fucking optimistic. You know what? Because it's against human nature. All of this is fake. All of this is not natural. And we're animals, and we'll do what's natural in the end. People are going to shake this off like a bad dream and just be like, oh no, I don't really believe that. I can't do that anymore. It's because it doesn't feel good. It feels like shit. If you hold shitty ideological beliefs and you're full of hate and full of contempt and you just glom people together in a group and go, fuck all of them, those red t-shirt, blue t-shirt wearing motherfuckers, you feel bad. It feels shitty.
Yeah. And the number one thing that wakes people up is if it's redirected towards them. And I think it's come to that point now where it's not just because you can see the evolution if you zoom out a little bit. You find a celebrity that's heavily unreachable. Like Michael Jackson was like the first person that was canceled, right? Like massively. Right. And then, it trickles down to other celebrities that are unreachable. Eventually it's YouTubers. And then now it's just people, like regular fucking people. The shite is at the point is when the average person starts to really see, oh shit, I might be next. Self-preservation kicks in, and then the shift changes.
Right, which is, I think we saw, and I think Douglas Murray pointed this out last year in 2020. Let me be careful. So when J.K. Rowling was attacked, and the way she was attacked, and I won't use the words, but feminists were saying, hang on a second, we fought for women's rights. What is this? Everybody knows what I'm talking about. I'm just not going to use the words. And at that point, you start going, I mean, when we say people who are radical leftists, and then you start saying, but not the radical leftists, but not the feminists, I'm going, okay, it's like the Prophet Muhammad said it, Jesus said it, a nation divided against itself cannot stand. You cannot stand against enemies. A house divided cannot stand. So that is now a house divided, for sure. Yeah. So I think even maybe unconsciously I've picked up that strategically it has to fall because of moments like that. Because you start, isn't this the nature of communism everywhere? Eventually you start going for your comrades. Oh, we got all the dissidents, didn't we, brother? Yes, we did. Did you call me brother? Yes. Did you just assume my gender? Gulag for you.
Oh, right. And more and more people are losing close friends, more people losing close family, more and more people can't even feel like they can have a DM conversation without being shamed by the unspoken judgmental third party. And this is when the shite is at the front porch. And I think this is the moment where the tide does shift is because now we got to bring out the fucking brooms. Like,
the brooms and the mops and the everythings. Well, I think that like the sanest, here's another reason for optimism. The sanest, most grounded, most worldly people I know are all dead against this. I never fucking thought about it this way. damn, Tentacle Quest just taught me something. The only people I know who are for this have no worldly knowledge whatsoever. They're
Yes.
super ungrounded,
There you
privileged
go.
lives. They don't know anything. I'm sorry to people be furious with me for saying that, but it's my truth counts, and in my lived experience, I know nobody who's for this shit who knows the world and whose opinion I respect.
And this is the loop back to our very first topic, boxing versus Tai Chi.
Right.
It's technique theory. It's all
Mm.
based on fucking theory in your classroom or your favorite YouTube influencer idiot like Pierre XO or whatever the hell, but there is no actual sparring experience. So one,
Yes.
learn a takedown through just learning the theory of where judo came from in the year of Huda Ha, and this person founded it. And then it's another person where your takedown isn't going to work in real life because it's real life, and the person might have fucking Wolverine claws,
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why MMA changed the world of martial arts forever. It really did, just by saying, so you have theoretician 1, theoretician 2, and the UFC just said, okay, do it then. Okay, do it then. Okay, do it then, over and over and over again, until a new style emerged that's called MMA. When this started in the 90s, you couldn't train, in the early 90s, late 80s, you couldn't train MMA. You were doing Kung Fu or you were a boxer. Now you just go to an MMA gym and there's a whole syllabus. It didn't exist. When I first started training, it didn't exist. The only people who did it were some niche Japanese schools, and they called it shoot fighting, which was a very goofy, theatrical version of what we see now of MMA fighting. So yeah, you're right. There is going to be this issue where when the rubber meets the road and theory is tested, a lot of theories just fall by the wayside, and it's shameful. It's humiliating. You go, oh, I really thought. I remember I used to think that when somebody was doing a double leg takedown on you, you could punch them in the head because I was a boxer, and it took me just over and over and over again, the experience being put on my ass, to realize action beats reaction. I am not fast enough. No human is fast enough to do that.
Yes.
That's why it's not a common defense in UFC.
And maybe this is a bit of where my sadism is like, sometimes I feel like that anime anti-hero villain, and I'm just like, you must learn from the universe itself, and like almost want certain people to just get head on with reality, dismantling their theory, because it's like theories are great sometimes for certain things and they do have value on their own, but it takes very little for that thing to collapse in actual practice.
That's where I think good parenting steps in, and you say, okay, you do actually have to let, I don't know exactly where the line is. Every parent has to choose it for themselves, but you can keep telling the child, don't do that, you're going to hurt yourself. Or maybe the child can do it, get hurt, and learn that way. And I guess the answer will be a balance of both. But there's nothing intrinsically wrong in saying, okay, go do that, see how it feels, see how it works out. In a sense, again, back to my optimism is like, the more we encourage people to say, yeah, fine, go do that, go in the world, live that way, try and get a job on those principles, try and go travel, go to Asia and travel Asia, and tell me how all this fantasy of how the world is, how it stacks up when you've actually spent months over there or a couple of years living there. Go do it. Is probably again, it's optimistic, because they will. Inevitably life occurs and you get these weird edges bumped off. The only thing that needs to happen is with the trend element of it. Corporations and banks are doing it because it's trendy. When it stops being trendy, then these corporations will stop doing it as well. And that's a day that we should be praying to accelerate towards, for sure.
Yes. Should we take questions? Do you have time?
We should take a couple of questions and then. All
right. Does anybody have a question here? We covered a lot of ground today, Richard.
We did. So if you have a question, if you could make it one sentence long and end it in a squiggly thing called a question mark, that'd be lovely. UG Rose says, stop teaching children to be scary and ignorant so they don't crash and burn. so they survive their mistakes.
There you go. There you go.
Did quitting cigs make you cry too? No, it's fine. Dolomite made me cry. Could we have a tentacle quest on music playlist in Spotify? I don't know how to do that young people shit. What do you mean? What is Spotify?
We just make a public playlist and put good songs on it. I mean, we could, but
is that a thing? Is that easy to do?
Yeah, I'm just too lazy to do anything nowadays.
And the only stuff that me and Pierre share is like really ratchet trap music. That's it. It's not like a varied. It's just okay. Have you finished reading the answer? What did you think? What's the answer? Pierre, do you know that? What the answer is?
I only have questions.
Yeah, me too. Sounds like a book. It's called The Answer. I'm not familiar with that book. Or maybe I am and I've forgotten. That happens sometimes. Question, Pierre. Have you watched Dr. Money and the Boy with No Penis and the Disappearing Male documentaries yet?
Is that an insult?
I'm offended.
Hey, Richard, have you heard of the idiot? It would fit you really well.
So have you read The Middle-Aged White Guy with the Tiny Penis? The Tiny Floppy Penis. Yeah, it's just called Tiny Floppy Penis. Why are you asking me that? It feels, I don't know, it feels personal. I haven't watched either of these documentaries. I will look up, I'll remember The Disappearing Male. I've certainly been the disappearing. It sounds like it's a documentary about my dad.
Oh my God.
It's just him leaving in slow motion for my life. And then me crying slowly. Why don't you love me, Daddy? Okay, Toddy. Oh, God.
I saw a bunch of questions, man. Where are they?
How long do you think, Pierre, COVID world will last?
It's forever Covito world, whether you like it or not.
Nunca podemos escapar de este mundo de tortura. I'm going to hit this to you first, Pierre. What do you think the end that is in sight going to look like?
The end? Like, what do you mean? Like,
I'm not sure either. I'm not sure what this question means. I use the phrase "end in sight" to the woke melodrama specifically. That's what I was speaking to. This trend for woke melodrama and cancellation.
Everything works in trends, and being a connoisseur of youth culture for as long as I can remember, all it'll take. Social media fortune teller D'Angelo's going to make a video, kind of denouncing some shit. Some other YouTubers are going to be like, yeah, and then it's going to be the new movement of woke, which is like anti-woke, which is like to resist a bit more, and then that becomes a trend to be less fucking pronoun racism thing, you know?
Hey, have you seen any of that on TikTok? Where there are a bunch of kids who are anti-woke? Yeah. So that you could say that's a trend that's kind of already started.
Yeah. There you go. And it's just YouTube is gonna catch up pretty soon, I think.
Alan says, "Isn't the woke thing dying, or did I just train my algorithm?" I've definitely trained my algorithm on TikTok, which has made me way too optimistic. And then every once in a while, Pierre will send me through a link, and I'll be like, "Fuck, we're fucked."
Yeah, I think we have all retrained most of our algorithms, but I will check certain channels and look at view count, and it's not as big as it nearly was last year for sure. Is that right? View counts collectively, from my own research, have dropped quite a bit on that end of the spectrum.
Trigonometry is blowing up. Podcast to the Lotus Eaters is blowing up. Jordan Peterson is back. He releases a video. He did a video interview with Chris Williamson the other day on the Red Skull thing, and in 6 days it got 1 million views.
Yeah,
I mean,
there you go.
And Chris Williamson, I think, probably is a couple of years younger than you. So yeah, I think there's movement there. Last question. Okay. This is from Chandler Bing. If you could plaster one message on a blank sheet of paper all over the city, what would you write on it?
Did you imagine poorly drawn pee-pee?
Did I?
Yes.
Straight away, but with a little bit of jizz, like dots of jizz.
I figured that's probably what I would do too.
You want to know why? Because that's all you fucking deserve. Poorly drawn pee-pee is the name of our new album. It's like it's a country trap crackhead vibe that we've gone for.
Yeah, I mean, I get the sentiment, but like, what the fuck am I gonna say on a 8x11 sheet of paper on a wall? You know, after this nonsense.
There is. I'm not going to say what they wrote, but there was like some very clever Zen koan style anti-woke baiting that people put on pieces of paper around a city that kind of pushed wokeism against itself. But I wouldn't do that because it creates agitation and there's no need for it. Badly drawn PP.
Yeah, I'm trying to not be in the agitation. So badly drawn PP indeed.
I like it. Well, sir, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you.
Indeed, Mr. R.
Should I close us out in the traditional format?
No.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for your time and for your attention. And we both look forward to speaking to you again very, very soon indeed.